Hey guys, welcome to the Hillbilly Roundup or Wrap-up. Wrap-up. I don't know. It's great to be here tonight. I know Sasha's been pushing back on that name. She says, it's so cringe. You're not really a hillbilly. You're doing cultural appropriation. But I'm like, hey, I live in the hills in Arkansas. I'm a hillbilly. So thank you to come for my Friday show. Friday show, we do this every week. It's a little bit more informal, just have some fun. I will put out a link if you guys want to call in to the show. You remember, like the old Rush Limbaugh, you can call in. I'll do that. It's a lot of fun. And we'll go over some stories of the week. And someone said, yeah, I expected you to see you in overalls. I know I should do that sometime, just really play it up a little bit. Let me look at Rumble here real quick. Someone said Rumble was down, and I checked my key. Yeah, that's what you have to do to set up Rumble. So I'm going to make sure it's not down. Let me see here. Let's see, is Rumble down? No, it's not down. I'm up. It's up. Rumble's up. Good. I love my Rumble people, so it's good to be up. And yeah, it's been a great week. I thought my show with Z-Man was so much fun. You can still, speaking of Rumble, see my show with Z-Man on Rumble or on X. I keep my shows on Rumble and X always up because the censorship is not as extreme as YouTube. I think our show was fine for YouTube, but who knows? Who knows? You never know what YouTube will decide. And it could be a little spicy because we were talking about Shiloh. And that gets some people upset. And she said the gamer word, and you can't say that. And although everyone's saying it now, so it's kind of fun. But that's on, you can see the replay on that. But that was a lot of fun. I really enjoy my shows with Z-Man. And then on Thursday at 11 a.m. Central, we started our first show with Sasha. We call it, I think, the Daylight Dispatch. And we talked about it. Sasha wanted to get involved, and I wanted her involved to discuss more of the news. I mean, we still do Night Owls, which is more about movies, culture, but we want to do something a little different. And I thought she did a great job. It was a fun show, so you guys could check that out. And by the way, thank you all for your love and support for that show because of that. One of the things a lot of people do is like, hey, if you do meet a donation goal, we'll do a bonus show. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that, but it's a way to gauge interest, I guess. So I'm like, okay. So we did that and it exceeded expectations. So yeah, next Monday and Tuesday, I will have the Ramsey Paul show. A lot of people have been missing that. So it's back. It's back. I'll be doing that Monday and Tuesday. And we'll have Night Owls on Sunday evening. We promise that. So it's going to be a lot of content. And we really appreciate all your love and support. I really do. So thank you very much. And in fact, I already got a tip of $50 from K Tart. Monday show. My tip was outside the show window or something. Well, thank you, K Tart. That's a very generous donation. And yeah, Monday show is definitely on. We're doing it on Monday, so it should be a lot of fun. And I like the Hillbilly Wrap-up here. Last week I did it with Sticks, and people, I got a lot of good feedback on it. Some people don't like Sticks. I like to have different type of characters on. To me, that makes things interesting. And I really enjoy Sticks. He used to co-host with me with Happy Homelands. And so I liked him. I like him on. I'm still a Sticks fan. I know he has his pirate motif and everything else. Some people think it's cringe, but hey, I call this a Hillbilly Wrap-up. That's kind of cringe. So, but people say, "Well, Sticks be back on?" Yeah, maybe I'll invite it back on. I might have different guests for my Friday night show. We'll see how it goes. So let me just hang on here. I'm going to share a link. I forgot I want to do this. So let me do this. If you guys want to call into the show tonight, I'll put out a link here, both in YouTube. Yeah, I like Sticks too, Raymond Nelson. He's pretty good. He's an entertainer. I mean, I don't want to get into these purity spirals in our sphere. And Sasha said that a while ago because she said when she started to watch me and everything, she goes, I just thought this was all about our people and being positive about our people. It wasn't all these religious debates, Protestant versus Catholicism, or the whole woman thing. Should women be trad wives, or you got to hide if you work because that's shameful if a woman doesn't work or doesn't have like 8 kids? And I think all of that is just unfortunate, how all those type of divisions. So I don't really want to get in that. And I agree with Sticks on like 80% of stuff. And the 20%, whatever, it's good to have them on. So I was happy to have them on. And I'm sure I'll have them on again sometime, and probably some other guests too. So let me see. And let's see, do I have any other stuff? Oh yeah. Also, I always want to kind of pimp my Substack. Substack is where you guys can keep up to date. Like when I did a change to my show format, I posted it on X, but I did a longer video for the Substack people, my supporters there. And also every Friday, I do a video just for my Substack people. In fact, today I did it based on the new Pope. And does it really make a difference? I'll talk a little bit about that here. So it's kind of a thank you for people that support me. And also every Tuesday night, we have a roundtable, which is a lot of fun where people get involved. We have a lot of great guests there. I don't want to say all their names because I'll miss some, but there's a really good contributors from all around the world, including Australia. And I've had people in Europe and the exotic Canada. So there's a lot of people there. I think you will enjoy that. So I encourage people to sign up for that. It's like a price of, if you go out to eat, you'll probably leave a tip smaller than that, right? So I do appreciate that. All right, we'll get into the show tonight and stuff that's been happening. And I think the big one is we'll get involved with some of this. Let me just open this up here. Let me see if this works here. This is Stephen Miller, who's one of my favorite guys in the Trump administration. And let's take a look at this here. All right, here it is.
Hold on, there's a question back there first. President Trump has talked about potentially suspending habeas corpus to take care of the illegal immigration problem. When could we see that happen? Well, the Constitution is clear, and that, of course, is the supreme law of the land.
Meaning judges aren't. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land with habeas corpus. And we'll get into this, but let's see what he says here.
That the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended in a time of invasion. So I would say that's an option we're actively looking at.
And the invasion here is the illegals coming into our country. And I think it is an invasion. And it has been used before, I think, during this Civil War and a few other times. George Bush was trying to get it through when we're doing all that Muslim stuff.
Look, a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. At the end of the day, Congress passed a body of law known as the Immigration and Nationality Act, which stripped Article 3 courts, that's the judicial branch, of jurisdiction over immigration cases. So Congress actually passed, it's called jurisdiction stripping legislation. It passed a number of laws that say that the Article 3 courts aren't even allowed to be involved in immigration cases. Many of you probably don't know this. I'll give you a good example. Are you familiar with the term temporary protected status, or TPS, right? So by statute, the courts are stripped of jurisdiction from overruling a presidential determination or a secretarial determination on TPS when the Secretary of Homeland Security makes that determination. So when Secretary Noem terminated TPS for the illegals that Biden flew into the country, when courts stepped in, they were violating explicit language that Congress had enacted.
Yeah, this is a big point. And sadly, a lot of these judges, they don't really care about what they're supposed to be. Just as a reminder, in the old days where they used to teach civics, right? I don't know if they do that anymore. But we have 3 branches of government. We have the legislature, which is composed of the House of Representatives and the Senate, which is the Congress. And Congress is typically responsible for making laws, and especially when it comes to finance, the budget. And then you have the president, which is in charge of implementing the laws and setting the direction. That's the executive branch. Then you have the judiciary, and their whole function is just to make sure that no law violates the Constitution. And for example, if for example, the courts rule, well, we're not going to allow you to build a Catholic church, right? Or if, say, state of Arkansas says we don't want a Catholic churches in our state, so we passed legislation that Catholic churches aren't allowed to be built. Well, the Supreme Court would look at that and say, well, wait a minute. I may not be a Catholic as a judge, but this definitely violates the First Amendment. So this is unconstitutional. That's their whole point of judges. They are not there to legislate. And a lot of people don't understand that, including a lot of judges, because judges, they have taken it upon themselves. And this is nothing new, to legislate from the bench. And so they don't really care if it's constitutional or not. They just care if they personally don't like it. But that's like a dictatorship then. It's a tyranny from the bench, because in this supposed democracy, my democracy, the people should decide. And how do the people decide? Is through their legislature. And as long as it doesn't violate the Constitution, and that's to prevent mob rule, then it's good to go. The judges, it doesn't matter if they like it or not. So that's the problem we have with the judges. And to clear things out, we got to clear that up. Otherwise, we don't have a real country anymore. Otherwise, what's the point of getting excited about getting a president? Why go out and vote? Why? It doesn't make any difference, because the judges will just do what they want.
Saying they have no jurisdiction. So it's not just, the courts aren't just at war with the executive branch. The courts are at war, these radical rogue judges, with the legislative branch as well, too. So all of that will inform the choices the president ultimately makes, yes.
So this is the big news, because a lot of people were clutching their pearls. Oh, Trump is a dictator. And habeas corpus, what that means is, in Latin, you shall have the body. It sounds kind of grim, but that means if you're arrested as a citizen, you have a right to appear before a judge in a court. So the police can't just arrest you if you're a citizen and say, well, we're not going to charge you. You don't have a right to a trial. We're just going to throw you in prison. And that's that. That's illegal. That's against habeas corpus. You have a right, and it could be a kangaroo court, but you have a right to go in front of a court. And that's to prevent people from being arrested, and there's no trial or jury or anything like that. But when you're dealing with illegals and in extreme times, you need to be able to do this sort of thing. And this is part of the way that the Biden administration set up. And again, Biden, we'll see, he was senile. There's no doubt about it. But the people around him, they wanted to gunk up everything. They wanted to break up our country, because they don't want any white countries. They're at war with our people. And their idea is, if we flood them in, there's no way they can get them out. Maybe Trump can shut the border, but he won't be able to get all these people out. And then they'll vote eventually Democrat, and then we'll get we won't have a white country anymore, and be good. We'll eliminate whiteness. That's their end game. That's their end game. They say so. So the idea they're trying to gunk this up is, when we try to arrest someone and get them out because they're illegal, it's like, no. They got to have a whole trial. But if you did that, you would never get them out. It would take like 1,000 years. So it's ridiculous. And you want to do that if like an army's invading. Oh no, before we can shoot back and then resist the army, we have to put every soldier on trial. It's ridiculous. So this is what habeas corpus means. And I'm at the point now, as I get older, I'm very pragmatic. I don't really care so much about people's idea of morality. It almost doesn't mean anything to me anymore. It really doesn't. I just want what's good for my people, and anything that's harmful for my people, I don't care what constitutional argument or religious argument or your tears, that doesn't mean anything to me. I just want what's going to be good for myself, my family, and my people. That's what I want. And anything to get these people out that came in here illegally, I don't really give a shit. They need to go out. And I don't care about the process. I don't care about anything. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. The left never cares about this. They always try to get us in this double standard, but I don't. And so if we have to suspend habeas corpus to get these people out, I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me whatsoever. Now, some people are upset about this, and I'll show you this. And I want to remind you, if you guys want to send in super chats, there's YouTube has super chats, Rumble has rants, there's Powerchats, and then Streamelements has the tip feature. And I like what I've been doing. I started this with Z-Man, and Sasha and I did this with the Daylight Dispatch. It's just keeping them at the end so it doesn't interfere with the flow. So I will get to your rants and power chats, but I'm going to read them at the end. But get them in now, and that's cool. All right, let me just share this here. You have this group called the Lincoln Project, and it's a rule of thumb. Any group that has the term Lincoln in it is probably going to be a problem, right? And the Lincoln Project, they're supposed to be Republicans, but they seem to be really on board with promoting homosexuality. I don't know if Lincoln had to do with that. And they're against anything that helps our people. I think they're pro-Israel, Israel first. And to be a good Republican is to basically be a Democrat. That's the Lincoln Project. And they're the ones, you remember, where they were trying to do dirty tricks, like people supporting Trump or something. They put in those khaki pants and tiki torches to try to make it bad optics, harkening back to Charlottesville. Not that I think that was a bad thing, but they were all Lincoln Project. They were paid off by those people. So these people, they're always doing dirty tricks and so forth. The Lincoln Project is outraged about a president potentially limiting habeas corpus in response to a national emergency. Who's going to tell them? Yeah, well, they were all for it when George Bush was trying to do it. There were the same people, in fact, many of the same people were involved with that. So I don't care what the Lincoln Project says. It's usually you're not going to go wrong if you just do the opposite of what the Lincoln Project wants. I kind of get them and the log cabin Republicans mixed up. I think the log cabin Republicans are men that like to have sex with each other or something like that, that call themselves Republicans. And there's an overlap. Like the Venn diagram, there is an overlap with the Lincoln Project. So they're kvetching as usual, but I don't really think we should really worry too much what they are saying, because we got a big issue here. Let me just show you this issue. And it's a big problem. And as I said, this does not bode well for the future of America. The people make a country. Less than half of the U.S. children under 15 are white. And that's really bad news, because as I said, the people make the country. People, I don't believe, are interchangeable. There was a thought that, oh, people are interchangeable. They just have to have the right education, and we can make everyone into white people. That was really the liberals' idea, and even mainstream Republicans. We can pull them out of a jungle, and with enough education and training, they can be like white people. And that's just simply not the case. But they really believed in that. And it is shocking, because if you look at in many areas of the country in schools, you hardly see any white kids anymore. I remember that's one of the things when I lived in Hungary that I found is so nice about being in Hungary is I was in the Budapest walking down the street, and I saw this little kindergarten class, little boys and girls are holding hands. They were doing like a field trip or something. And every kid was white. It was a white Hungarian. I'm like, wow, would you see that in the United States anymore? It's probably the opposite now. You see a school trip like that, you won't see any white kids, or maybe one or two. So it's pretty depressing. And I think a lot of Western countries were seeing this in many regions. Again, this is a whole process. They want to break apart white countries. This has been a plan they've been working on through immigration and other things. And it's not going to work out well for the country, because the people make the country. And if you replace the people with other people, for example, if they're mostly Mexicans, we'll start to look like Mexico. If it's mostly Africans, we'll look like Africa. I don't I don't want to live like that. I don't want my descendants to live like that. So we got really an emergency here, and we got to do a lot of correction. And obviously, Trump did the first thing, stopping the border from all the illegals. Good for him on that. And they're working on deporting people. I'm happy about that. We got to do whatever. It's an emergency. Otherwise, we don't have a country. And they're talking about, suspending habeas corpus. I'm for that. Whatever gets these people out. That's just the bottom line. I don't care anything about anything else. However they do it, I don't care. They just need to go out. If it's self-deporting, fine. If they have to arrest them, fine. I don't care about their sad story. I don't care about their tears. They need to go out. They have their homelands. We have our homeland. And we don't have to justify why. Shouldn't be open to the world. We have a right to our homeland. And it's just a grim situation that I think Trump is trying to do the best he can. It's a very difficult thing. And we waited too long, really, is what happened. People like me been warning people for years, and a lot of people were slow to the uptick. Let's just put it that way. Now people like Matt Walsh, who a few years ago probably wouldn't even want to acknowledge me. Oh, no, he's too extreme. Now he's sounding like me, which is good. I'm happy. I think that's progress. I think that is really good. But yeah, I wish they would have came to the party sooner, because this would have been much easier to deal with, let's say in 1980 or 1990 or even 2000. So we waited a long time, and I hope it's not too late, but we got a big effort in front of us here. That is for sure. And, but I think Trump is doing his best to get these people out. And we're not tolerating people that try to get in the way of this. And I see another good thing that happened. Let me just show you this here this week. Breaking: Newark Mayor Baraka has been arrested and taken to federal custody for storming an ICE facility. And here he is. Yeah, Newark is it's a horrible city. It's like 80% black. There's a correlation there. And this guy doesn't have the right to try to take the law into his own hands, even if he is a mayor. Newark is a very violent place. You don't want to live in Newark. And so good. I'm glad he was arrested. He should be arrested if you're breaking the law and trying to interfere with that. I support ICE. ICE. There's someone on our roundtable, by the way, and he's close to being hired as a border guard with ICE. So good for him. And that is a good job to have. We need more people like that. So thank God for that. All right. Let's just talk a little bit about some of the ideas that are out, like in our sphere. There's sort of a little civil war going on. And this James Lindsay, he seems a little bit off in the head. I don't really know this guy, but he just seems off psychologically. But he's making his whole identity here, ironically, but his whole spiel, and a lot of people are doing this too. I think Jordan Peterson, and they're trying to gatekeep the right. And it's not really working that well anymore. I've seen people like Mike Cernovich push back against it, Matt Walsh, Charlie Kirk, other people, they're starting to push back on it. So James Lindsay, I don't know if he came up with this, but they came up with like a new horseshoe theory, the horseshoe theory, like the radical right's just like the radical left, basically. And you want to be in the middle. And they kind of rebranded that with woke. And so he's talking about here that if you believe in no identity politics, that's good. But if you do identity politics, but for whites, that makes you woke right. And you don't want to be woke right because woke is bad, right? And so what an interesting thing happened here. Woke is a term. We used to have the term social justice warriors. The blue-haired women, lesbians like in Portland or transgender that are running around screaming and talking about pronouns and white supremacy and the patriarchy and whatever. You know the type. We used to call those social justice warriors. But then they started to call themselves woke because that was, they thought, a positive term. It's like being awakened, you're woke. But then people started to make fun of that term, woke, and they kind of dropped that term. But it's popular now. So, like, if a Disney, let's say, has a new adaptation of Snow White, but they make her a black lesbian, okay, that we'd say, okay, that's an example of woke because it's pushing that garbage. And so woke meant left wing in that type of stuff. But Lindsay thought this would be really clever. Let's call the right woke if they support certain things. And their idea is if you're a white person that supports identity politics, you're woke. So, which is ironic because not really, because woke people, they support identity politics, but not for whites. That's their big thing. And for example, you can have the black identity. We should celebrate that. If you want to have a school and you want to have a black club, good. And let's celebrate Black History Month and let's celebrate blackity black, right? And of course, our best little friend in the Middle East, like Ben Shapiro, his whole identity is based on his ethnic homeland. That's his identity. It's not America, it's Israel. That's identity politics. But you see with other groups too, some Hispanics and Indians, you name it, right? Because identity is a big part of politics. That's what politics is about. But they don't want white people to have that identity because it makes us a threat. They like us to be split apart. And they say if we have an identity, that means we're KKK or Nazis or white supremacists, but it's fine for everyone else to have an identity. So as a good white, you just have to have like no identity. You have to be against identity politics. So you can't work with other whites to fulfill your purpose. No, that's evil. You have to do the routine. You don't even know what white means and you don't see color, blah, blah, blah. You have to go through that routine like a traditional gatekeeper Republican or so-called conservative. They want you to go through that spiel, but they don't demand that of other groups, especially let's say like Ben Shapiro. They were not going to say, Ben, you got to drop your identity politics for Israel. They will never do that. So it's very selective. And so what they're trying to do is gatekeep and call you a term like woke. You're being woke if you support identity politics for white people. But I'm like, his idea, well, everyone should get rid of identity politics. Well, good luck with that. I mean, good luck giving our special little friends in the Middle East dropping their ethnic identity. Yeah, good luck with that one. And blacks dropping their blackity black thing. Yeah, good luck with that one. Part of this is just who we are as animals or as people. We're social creatures, and identity is an important part of us. And it's a difference between is and ought. I don't think it's necessarily a good or bad. It's just the way it is. Hey, I got a caller in, and welcome to the Ramsey Paul Show. Blood Crystal, yeah, what's your comment or question? And it's good to see you, Blood.
Likewise. My question is, if Archangel Gabriel came down and told you, I'm forcing you to change places with somebody in history, right? You have to choose. It's not an option not to choose. But whose place in history would you like body swap with if given that ultimatum? Like, who would you be in history if you could be anybody at any time and you had to choose? All right, choosing is not an option. You must choose, or else some bad thing happens.
All right.
Who would it be?
That's a great question, and thank you. And I'll just let you go here now. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, a great question. I'm thinking of like Kanye. Yeah, Kanye, he came up with that video praising a certain mustache man. I think I would body swap with him. I really would, because I think he made a lot of mistakes, and I would put him on a more positive course that wouldn't have led to World War II, right? I would have worked with a little bit, knowing what we know now, I would have not invaded Poland, for example, and I would have made sure that I had more support to avoid a war, and that would have saved millions of lives, obviously. So I think I would have body swapped with Hitler so I could like reform his actions. So he would have done things that would have been more positive, that would have kept him Germany. Because I think let's say if Germany won the war, or let's say if there wasn't even a war, hypothetically, let's say if Hitler was able to negotiate better and not be so stubborn, because part of his his outlook was, no, these are our German people in Danzig, they need our help, they're being persecuted, we're sending in the tanks, I made this pact with Stalin, and we're going to divvy up Poland. Let's say if he didn't do that, let's say if he just was a lot more careful with negotiations and said, no, we don't want to do anything that's going to get us in a war. Because when he invaded Poland, Britain and France declared war on Germany. He didn't declare war on them. They declared war on Germany. And they didn't declare war on the Soviet Union, which was interesting because the Soviet Union invaded the same day Poland. But that's another matter. But if he would have avoided that, he could have made, I think, Germany a huge power. It would have been one of the most powerful nation in Europe, even dwarfing England. And, maybe England would have tried to find a pretext for a war because they were jealous of their empire. I don't know, but it would have been more hard to get involved with that. So I think if he played his cards smarter, he could have avoided the war, and he could have created the Reich that would have lasted a lot longer, and they would have got nuclear weapons first because they had the ability, and they probably would have been to the moon. It would have been an interesting part of history because I think the Soviet Union would have collapsed, and then the Cold War would have been between the United States and Germany, not the United States and Russia. So I think millions of lives could have been saved if I body swapped with him and just did things in a more positive fashion. So that was a great question, though. So thank you very much. And again, that was a caller. And Blood Crystal is a member of our roundtable, and he always has really great commentary. All right, let me just invite again. So if you guys want to come in, you don't see it, you could call in. And I always like questions on Friday night. It's kind of cool. People call in. Everyone's been good. Just keep it YouTube friendly. Everyone has so far, but just do that is my only request. All right. And yeah, did you see that about Kanye? I guess his video with black guys praising Mustache Man got pulled from YouTube. Of course it would. I don't know. You have to understand, and I think Z-Man wrote about this on X, and I agree with him. It's not like Kanye understands the tenets of National Socialism. He's not smart enough to understand that. Kanye is schizophrenic. I really believe he is. And praising Hitler is the most edgy thing that you can do right now in the year 2025. When I was a kid, it was like maybe praising Satan, drawing pentagrams or something. But that's kind of boring now. That's not really edgy. That's kind of, everyone yawns about that. So when people are looking to be edgy, they have to find something. And so that's why people gravitate towards those symbols and everything. But mostly when they do that, a lot of the people, they have no idea what National Socialism was or anything like that. They just see it as like the Empire and Star Wars, just evil for the sake of being evil. So they have a very cartoon view of it. And they like that because they want to be edgy type of thing. I get it, but it really has nothing to do with National Socialism. It's just it's what I used to call Hollywood Nazis. It's like they're not, the real Nazis probably would have shot him, but these are the guys that just put on they kind of You don't see them so much anymore, but years ago, you'd have all these neo-Nazi types that would, the all tatted up meth heads, and, that type of thing, really degenerates. And so they have nothing in common with the original, but they like the symbols and it made them look badass and all that type of stuff. I get it. I get it. But it's not really a real ideology or anything like that. It's just trying to be transgressive for the sake of being transgressive. And so Kanye did that because, that's what Kanye does. I mean, obviously he's black and he posts interracial porn. He's talked about, he doesn't really like white people. I mean, it just depends on the day. He's all over the map. So that was his song there. All right. Let's see here. So that was a great question by Blood Crystal. It made me think about that. Yeah, I think I would trade places with Hitler so I could have put him on the right track, just like, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to invade Poland. We're not going to focus on that one ethnic group so much or anything like that. And put like a kinder, gentler face, a more positive message. I think they really failed to address the importance of foreign propaganda. They didn't really do much of that. They didn't do much narrative control because they didn't know back then. I think that would have helped a lot. All right. This next thing that happened this week is we got a new pope. And I guess all these people that really hate Christians they're all excited about the new pope. And this is here it is. It's talking about how the new pope got into it with J.D. Vance and because this new pope is for, I guess, illegal immigrants into America, not into the Vatican. So I did my video about this today for my Substack subscribers, but I don't know if this is really relevant. First of all, I hate these people like Bill Crystal who don't even believe, or these people, they don't believe in the teachings of Jesus, right? Because like Bill Crystal, hey, the teaching of Jesus was, you may not believe this, but he's saying he's the Messiah. The only way to God is through him. Otherwise, you're going to hell, Bill. That's the teaching of Jesus. And so if you want to reject Christ, that's fine. But if you make your whole identity about rejecting Christ, don't come lecture us about how we Christians should respond into a certain way, right? It's just ridiculous. But you see this a lot. So I think there's a meme. You've probably seen this. So you have these people that hate everything about Christianity, but then they attempt to use Christianity to lecture Christians about how we're supposed to act. So I just reject it, right? So those people, it's like, F off. I don't really care what you have to say. You're not one of us, so you need to just shut your mouth. This doesn't involve you. But you see a lot of those types. You get a lot of those types around Christmas. Jesus was a refugee. No, he wasn't. He didn't stay in Egypt. They went back to Nazareth, right? He didn't suck off welfare in Egypt. He just escaped Herod, and they went back to Nazareth, right? So he wasn't like a refugee that hanged around forever like the modern ones. But they like to put out this bullshit because of fools. They're trying to fool Christians, and sadly, it works sometimes because a lot of Christians, they don't really understand their faith. One of the things I'm really happy for is from kindergarten to about 5th or 6th grade, I went to a Christian school, a very fundamentalist, strict school. They had a lot of discipline. They spanked kids, everything. You had to be quiet in class. You had to study hard. And I really got I learned a lot of traits, not just in the education, but I did learn a lot on how to conduct myself because it forces you to discipline yourself. And I also learned a lot about Bible and theology. And I kept with it my whole life. Even though I haven't been a good Christian, I can spot a lot of these people that aren't Christians that are trying to use the religion against us. I can see it right away. But a lot of Christians don't know that. And so they fall for this stuff. So I don't really care about what non-Christians really think about the Pope. Their position should be irrelevant. And if you're not Catholic, what do you care what the Pope says? And this will anger maybe some of my viewers. I don't get into the religious debates. I'm friends with Catholics, and I went to a couple times to an Orthodox church. I thought it was beautiful. I think Catholic churches are gorgeous, and I love the tradition. I have a good friend that he goes to Mass in Latin, and I think that's cool. I'd want to do that. I really love all that type of stuff, right? But I was raised Protestant, and we don't think that the Pope has any authority over us. Protestants believe that we can directly go to God through the Word of God. We don't need someone in between us. I'm not going to get into the debate if that's right or wrong, but that's the Protestant view. And most of America was Protestant. It just was. I'm just saying. It was a big to-do, for example, when JFK became President Kennedy, because the idea was, wait a minute, could a Catholic become president in the United States? This isn't a Catholic country. And it really wasn't. This was a Protestant country. And for good or evil, that's how it was. And you still see that. Like here in the South, this is still heavily Protestant, Bible-believing churches. That's why I hate a little bit that, the whole Groyper movement, you have to be Catholic and that type of thing, because that doesn't appeal to a wide section of really the white population. It doesn't. You could say maybe it should, but once you start adding religion to all the other politics, things get really confused. It's just a way to divide. And I don't think we should divide based on that. Not that it's not important. I'm fine with arguing religion. But I think we need to come together as people and don't let that split us up. Like I think, pagans are kind of cringe at time, thinking they're ancient Vikings or Druids. Whatever, though. I don't, I'm tolerant of it. I just, I don't believe it, but at the same time, I wouldn't be excluding people that want to help us, right? And so, but the majority of Americans are not Catholic. So what the Pope says is irrelevant. And from what I've seen of Catholics, they don't really seem to care that much what the Pope says in politics either. For example, I don't think J.D. Vance is going to change his position based on what the Pope says. So I don't really think it has that much influence anymore like people think it will. It's just a way for leftists to try to do a gotcha to us. And they think it's a trick to try to force us into their beliefs. But I don't think it has that much effect, really. And to be fair, I guess the new Pope isn't totally liberal. And, he doesn't believe in like women priests or homosexuals or all that type of thing. So that's good. But he does, he's into this whole, we got to allow all these immigrants into America. Not the Vatican, but the America we do. So, it's a little cringe, but again, I don't think it's that big of a deal, really. All right. Joe Biden, he was in the news this week. Good old Joe Biden. I'm hoping he will be Biden in 2028. I think he's going to be fit and rested in 2028. And they're trying to rehabilitate him. So they put him on these show with all these old hens. And here he was. This is Joe Biden. They got him out here.
Mr. President, since you left office, there have been a number of books that have come out, deeply sourced from Democratic sources, that claim in your final year there was a dramatic decline in your cognitive abilities.
Well, just by looking at him here, you can see this is true. If you guys have ever had elderly grandparents or whatever, when you start to lose your mental abilities, and I think Biden is a piece of shit, I really do. But forget his politics, and I don't think he's a good guy. He tried to act like he's I'm just a loving grandfather. No, he's a piece of shit. But sometimes bad things to happen to bad people, and just because, for example, if you're a bad person and you get cancer, that doesn't make you a good person, right? And because Biden gets senile, that doesn't make him a good person. But he is senile. And if you've ever had family members go through this, you could tell the looks they have on their face. And Biden has it. He has it here.
In the final year of your presidency, what is your response to these allegations, or are these sources wrong?
Now, see, if I was president, I'm not saying I'm the sharpest guy, right? But I would say, these allegations are totally false. As you can see here, I'm having a conversation with you. What do you want to talk about? I'll talk about Iran. I could talk about Pakistan and India conflict. I'll talk about the Ukraine and Russia and the Donbass and the history there. I can talk the history of the civil rights movement with the Brown versus the Board of Education and the reasoning for that. See, I could do that. And you may disagree with me, but see, I'm speaking out. You could tell I'm not. Let's see if Biden could do this.
You are wrong. There's nothing to sustain that.
I think he meant there's nothing to support that, but he says sustain that. So he's already getting his words mixed up.
Number one. Number two, think of what we're left with. We're left with a circumstance where we had an insurrection.
All right. Now he's talking. He's not addressing the question. He said, number one, there's nothing to sustain that. It's like, what? You mean support that, right? And then number two, we had an insurrection. Well, again, that has nothing to do with the question. He's wandering. And old people, when they get off in the head, they just start to wander. He already forgets the question, and he just has these tropes. There wasn't an insurrection, by the way, but he has these tropes that he wants to repeat.
Started. Not since the Civil War. We had a circumstance where we were in a position that the pandemic, because of the incompetence of the last outfit, end up over 1 million people dying.
Well, that didn't happen.
1 million people dying. And we're also in a situation where we found ourselves unable to deal with a lot of just basic issues, and which I won't go into in the interest of time. And so we went to work, and we got it done. And one of the things that and Alyssa,
So he doesn't even know. So listen to this.
One of the things
Here we go. Let's do this because his wife has to jump in for him because he's confused.
Time. And so we went to work, and we got it done. And one of the things
so he lost. This is an example. So they asked him, well, what about your cognitive ability? And then he said, there's nothing to sustain that, which doesn't make sense. He meant support. And then he got confused and started talking about these other issues. And then right here, listen to this.
And so we went to work, and we got it done. And, one of the things
one of the things what? One of the things what? You say one of the things, well, what? And what happened? He doesn't know because he went and he just forgot. He doesn't know what he's doing here.
Well, and Alyssa, what?
And then his wife jumps in. So he didn't know what he was talking about here.
One of the things I think is that the people who wrote those books were not in the White House.
Now she understands. She still understands the question. Biden didn't even understand the question, really. He just was rambling about something else. So she had to go back and try to answer the question. Like the people that wrote the books, they were biased or whatever. Let's see what she says.
With us. And they didn't see how hard Joe worked every single day.
And look how his body language there, like he doesn't want to be there. He's withdrawing himself. I mean, this is a sign. If you see people in nursing homes, it's sad. They're just sitting there looking down. It's like they don't really interact with the world.
I mean, he'd get up, he'd put in a full day, and then at night I'd be in bed, reading my book, and he was still on the phone, reading his briefings, just working with staff. I mean, it was nonstop. It's the White House. Being president is not like a job. It's a lifestyle. It's a life that you live. You live it 24 hours a day. That phone can ring at 11 o'clock at night.
It looks like he's nodding off here.
Or 2 a.m. It's constant. You never leave it. And Joe worked really hard. I think he was a great president. And if you look at things today, give me Joe Biden anytime.
That's worth the invitation to come to the show.
Yeah, Joe, that wasn't a good look for Joe. He's obviously, and she didn't even really address the issue either. I mean, it shows here he's got his decline there, but I hope he goes. I hope he runs for 2028. That'd be funny. Okay. A couple other things here. Then I'll get to your questions. So if you have any questions, I promise I will ask them, and you can still call in too. And YouTube has super chats, Rumble rants. I got a rant I saw, and then oh god, I knocked my glasses off. Here we go. And then there's Powerchats and Streamelements. I don't know. Something's happening, and this is pretty big that I never thought I would see happen. But Trump looks like he's upset with Israel, and I never thought I'd see this day here. Right. Trump posted a video of Jeffrey Sachs calling Netanyahu a deep, dark son of a bitch. Trump says that Netanyahu won't drag the U.S. into a war with Iran. That was Israel's goal. Trump pursues negotiations with Iran instead of Israel's request to bomb their nuclear sites. Trump fires National Security Advisor Waltz over his close association with Netanyahu. Trump makes peace with Yemen, allowing Israel ships to continue to be targeted. And the Israeli media reports Trump cuts off all contact with Netanyahu, reportedly over being treated with disrespect. And then Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, abruptly cancels the trip to Israel. And then Trump's ambassador to Israel states the U.S. does not need Israel's approval to make peace with Yemen. So this is huge. And Ben Shapiro, speaking of identity politics, he can't be happy with this. And a lot of people are thinking this, oh, this is just 4D chess. Trump's just doing this to throw people off, make him appear that he's not a pawn of Netanyahu. I don't know, It's one of those things eventually you just become exasperated with the whole situation. And I think that's what Trump is feeling here. And it's hard to defend. You didn't get a bigger supporter for Israel than Trump. But then Israel, again, they continue to do their genocide and try to starve the people like, their ancestors did in Holodomor. They're trying to do to the Palestinians. Not that I care about Palestinians, but still not a good look, right? It's one thing going after terrorists. It's another thing to try to starve a whole population. And then with Iran, Israel's demanding we should bomb Iran. Iran doesn't have any problem with the United States, but because Israel wants us to take them out, they're demanding Trump should do that. And Trump, I think, is just getting tired of that, being a pawn of Israel. And it's amazing because, Trump doesn't have to run again, so he doesn't need their money. But it's going to be interesting. The neocons already hate Trump, but it's going to be interesting. I predict this will cause people like Ben Shapiro, who at least pretended to be on Trump's side, to turn on him. Because again, their identity's first with their ethnic group and his ethno-state, Ben's case. So the idea that Trump would put America ahead of Israel's just, people won't tolerate it, especially people like Ben Shapiro, but even people like my senator in Arkansas, because he's paid off by them. Tom Cotton, he definitely puts Israel first. He'll probably have a problem with that. Lindsey Graham, I don't know if he's being paid off or blackmailed, but there's going to be issues there. So we'll have to see what happens there. But this is a big moment, and this could redefine our relationship with Israel. And I think that it needs to be done. It needs to be done here. All right. Let's see here. Before I get to your questions, I want to do a couple things. Trump always likes to oversell something. He was like, on Thursday, there's going to be a huge announcement. It's going to be huge. And, it's always kind of like, oh, well, he announced, and here it is. It was an agreement with Britain. So we got this comprehensive trade agreement with the United Kingdom. And I guess that's good. And the stock market liked it. And Trump's already kind of pulling back on the whole tariff thing. I don't know. I've often talked to you guys about this. I don't really know where Trump stands on tariffs. I don't know if he does. He keeps going back and forth. Is this a policy we're going to have forever, or is it just a negotiating ploy? It looks like the latter, right? But sometimes he talked about, no, this is how we're going to fund the government. McKinley funded the government with tariffs. We didn't have an income tax. With tariffs, I could get rid of the income tax. But now he looks like he's trying to back off on the tariffs, even with China. He said we can't do any more with China, the tariffs. We hope to get him down. So I don't know. I think tariffs have a place to bring jobs back to America, to protect our industry, but maybe it was just a negotiating ploy. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if Trump understands either, but that was his position on that. And let's see here. I think I will go ahead and bring up any super chats or power chats. And I do have a super chat. The Shiloh fundraiser led to a really wild and spicy fight between Jason No White Guilt and his former co-host, Mark Collette. If you want drama, online drama. I'm surprised. I thought maybe I'll have to watch that, but did you guys see this? Let me look in chat. Who was on which side? I thought they would have both supported Shiloh. Who was counter signaling Shiloh? Do you guys know? Was it No White Guilt or Mark Collette? Because I thought they're kind of on the same side on that. Let me look at here. I don't know. No White Guild is a Fed. I don't want to accuse everyone to be a Fed. Was he No White Guilt the one against it because of his bad optics or something? Yeah, I'm tired of. I don't. I don't really care. The optics thing. We need to do what's right for our people, and people are fed up about this. And it really resonated with a lot of people, even people like not Ben Shapiro. Matt Walsh, the support of Shiloh. This is huge. And I think this was a good thing. And they just had enough. Shiloh, she had her whole community lost because of the Somali immigrants that were dumped in her area. And then one of these kids was stealing from her. She just had enough. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Yeah, I think that was it. And yeah, I guess that would have been No White Guilt, because I understand having a positive message. Don't get me wrong. And I like that about No White Guilt. I'm not opposed to him. But at the same time, it's not like we always have to be timid about everything and just be apologetic about anything, because other groups aren't. Right. But Jewish people would always support their people in a situation, no matter what. Blacks will, that's for sure. We need to start doing the same. And it comes back to his title, No White Guilt. We got to quit having guilt for our stuff ourselves. And so I would definitely be on the Mark Collette side, assuming that's it. I haven't seen the whole thing, but if that's what it is, I am on Team Mark Collette. Rowhouse, this $10. Thank you, a rant. This chart is interesting, but response to Joel Berry too. All right, I'm going to take a look at this chart here. Oh yeah, I've seen this chart. Thank you, Rowhouse, and I've shared this before, but it's good to go over again. This is how people see each other and how racial groups see each other. And white people, by far, see everyone basically the same. This was the question: how do you rate your favorability towards blacks, Asians, whatever? And whites, they pretty much rate everyone the same. Other groups, Hispanics, definitely rate their own people higher, and then blacks rate blacks higher, and Asians rate Asians higher. So this is partly because of propaganda against our people for 60 years that is somehow shameful. And I would say, use the no white guilt meme. We got to stop having guilt about that. We can have our identity, and that is perfectly fine. And we don't have to apologize. People don't have a right to police our language. We have a right to our spaces. We have a right to our homelands, and we don't have to apologize for that. But yeah, this does show, and we need to overcome this first. Our first battle, I've always said, is really spiritual. If we ever had the idea that we don't have this obligation to work against our own interest, you'd be surprised how fast things could change like that. And then everyone would be, my God, why didn't we do this sooner? So things can change quickly. Thank you, Royal House, for that. I have seen that chart, and that is a good chart here. And then Pam, hi, $10 a rant. Thank you. I have heard the new military budget allocates a lot of money to create shipyards and factories to produce military equipment and by the U.S. government. Interesting change from only private contractors. Yeah, that is. I mean, it's good. I know Trump wants to make a lot of ships, and I didn't know that the government's going to make them not private contractors. That's probably a good thing. Just because private contractors, they just want to make money on it. I don't know if we need to spend more in our military. I'm even though I'm a conservative, I'm not one of those conservatives that thinks we perpetually need to increase the defense budget. I think we're spending way too much on the military. We spend $1 trillion. It's going to be $1 trillion next year. That's just crazy. We can't sustain that. We spend more. I know I've said this a lot, but we spend more in the United States on our military than the entire world does combined. So you take China, you take Russia, you take Iran, you take Germany, you take Ukraine, you take all the countries, put them together. They don't equal what we spend in a year. That's just crazy. We do not need a bigger military. We need a more effective military. As you've seen, our military has been very embarrassing in fighting the Houthis. We lost 2 or 3 jets because they fell off the ship. Yeah. So there's got to be, and I think we need to restructure and get more into the drone technology and just relook at everything. So I'm not against modernizing the military. I think that needs to happen. I think we're kind of behind on that. But I think a lot of our military is extremely bloated, and it's kind of a jobs program for most of the people in it. Most of the people in the military are not frontline soldiers. A lot of them work in a warehouse in Iowa or whatever. And thank you for your service. Yeah, big deal, doing a spreadsheet all day. So I think we need to really downsize the military, but make it more effective. And so I'm kind of mixed on that. Robert, I got a power chat. Rams, the view of the Hassan Piker, Ethan Klein debates. That was funny. I think on our Daylight Dispatch with Sasha, we saw that. Signs of Klein's group wealth, but Hassan Piker's group is more numerous. Israel no longer has the liberal support. Yeah, if you guys don't know what it was, I don't really follow these guys, but Ethan Klein, these are 2 liberals, but they got at each other's throats. And Ethan Klein, obviously Klein is Jewish, and Hassan obviously is some sort of, I guess, Arab or Muslim or something. And they used to be, together, united against white people and Christians. But this issue has split them. And you had to have a heart of stone not to find this funny, because Hassan was calling Ethan Klein, the Jewish guy, a racist, and Ethan Klein was calling Hassan an anti-Semite. So it was funny. And this is a big change. This is a big division in the left, and I would say on the right too. Israel in many ways is in trouble because their supporters are dying off. And again, even this is happening in the Democrat Party. Obviously, they had the big donors, and they had the people of their persuasion that that had a lot of influence. Let's just put it that way. But this whole Gaza thing and what's happening there, a lot of the people on the left, they see the Jewish people as white. They see Israel as white people starving to death, brown people. And so they flipped out on that. And the whole Israel thing, oh, but we're descendants of my granddaddy miraculously survived the Holocaust, so we have a right to do this. It's not going over well on the left. So they've already have a lot of problems on the left. And then on the right, in which most Jewish people, by the way, are 70% are on the left. But on the right, they had kind of a stronghold with like the Ben Shapiro types and then the Christian nationalists. But that's mostly older boomers that are into that, God's chosen people, God blesses those who bless Israel, all that bullshit. Those people are dying off. And the younger people on the right aren't buying into that. They don't see any advantage of why are these people pushing mass immigration in our countries, but they have their ethno state. Wait a minute, this isn't making sense. Why should they direct our foreign policy? This is not making sense. How is America first to us get into war with Iran because that's what they want us to do? That's not making sense. Why does my senator from Arkansas, all he talks about is Israel? We have less than 6,000 Jewish people total in the state, and all he does is talk about Israel. What the hell's going on? Why is he being supported by AIPAC so heavily? Why is foreign money going to buy our politicians? And a lot of the young Republicans no longer support that. It doesn't mean they hate Israel, but they're like, we should treat Israel like any other country. So I think the whole Israeli lobby is really having a problem on both the left and the right. And if Trump was pushing back on Netanyahu, they got a big problem, and that is a huge thing. So that is the issue. Hey, and I got a super chat. Thank you. This is 11 Industrial Complex 009. How would you rate Labrador Retrievers, Pit Bulls, Beagles, Pugs, Saint Bernard breeds from 1 to 10? Also, favorite dog and why? And where are your animal clips? I on Monday and Tuesday the animal clips will be back. So they thank you for that. I know a lot of people like the animal clips. And let me answer your question. This is a kind of a fun question, and I'm going to bring it up on this because I can read it here. I got a cataract I got to get removed, so sometimes my vision is a little blurred out of my right eye. How would I rate Labrador Retrievers? They're good dogs. They're really good. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate them a 7. Pit Bulls, I know there's a lot of hate for Pit Bulls. They're bred for fighting. They can be good dogs. You ever watch the Our Gang, or it's later known as the Little Rascals? Their dog they had in there was a Pit Bull. And so, yeah. But the problem is they're bred for fighting, and that makes them dangerous. So let's say if you have a little dachshund and it bites you, it sucks. It may draw a little blood, but a pit bull could kill you. So part of the genetics is real. So pit bulls, they need to be with a proper person. I would rate them a 3. It's hard for me to rate because they can be really great dogs, but they require the right person. And unfortunately, usually the wrong people get pit bulls, and they cause a lot of issues. It's kind of like the meme 12 do 60 or whatever, in percentages. The pit bulls, they are responsible for the majority of serious bites. So I'd have to rate them low, 3. Beagles, I'd rate a 5. That was Snoopy. Hounds always have some issues that I'm not a fan of. They're not the most intelligent of breeds of hounds. They can be good dogs. Beagles can be a little hyper. Pugs, they're cute. When I was working in Switzerland, in Zurich, I was training some people we had a center out there. And this German girl, because you had Germans working in Switzerland. If you don't know Switzerland, they have like a German-speaking population, a French-speaking, and an Italian-speaking. I was in the German part. This German girl, she had this little pug she would bring into work and, sleep under her desk. It was really cute. They're cute dogs that sometimes have breathing problems. I'd rate them an 8. Saint Bernards are a big breed. They're a loving dog. The trouble with big breeds is they're very expensive, and they don't live as long because their heart's so big. So they die soon, and they're expensive. Their medicine's expensive. They eat a lot, and their poop's big. So you can't carry them around as easy as like a little dog. Also, favorite dog and why. You guys remember I used to have a Boston Terrier named Dino, and I love that dog. I trained that dog to do tons of tricks. I trained Dino. I think I still have the YouTube video up to whenever he had to go to the restroom, he would just go to the front door and ring a bell, and then I let him out. And it's a great dog. But Bostons have some breathing problems sometimes. But that was, I think that was my favorite dog. But I love mixed breeds. We have Button now. She's a sweet dog. And so that was a good dog too. So thank you. That was kind of my dog thing. So instead of a dog clip, I just went over my dog recommendations. And I want to make sure I got everything on here. And I think I do. I got everything. As always, if I should miss a super chat or a power chat, I will get it the next broadcast. I always feel bad when I miss one. I don't do it intentionally. Guys, it's been a lot of fun show. Friday night's a fun show. And thank you for Blood Crystal for calling in. That was fun. Thank you guys for supporting the show. That's great. We promise, because your support, we will Sunday night have Night Owls. Night Owls are casual show. And then Monday, Tuesday, the Ramses Paul show will be back because of all the outpouring of support. And my week is officially done. Friday night, and I kick back. I don't have content till Sunday afternoon. So it's kind of, it's the time for me to recharge, although I love doing this sort of thing. So I hope you guys all have a great weekend, and we will see you Sunday night. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.